Did you know that the woman chosen by God to be the matriarch of Israel used lies and deception to secure her favorite blessing, triggering a sequence of events that spark hatred between two nations? Rebekah, a figure of strong initiative and unshakable faith, was called by God to bring a divine promise to light through her children. However, her actions, driven by rash human interference, paved a path of chaos and suffering. Her story hides a profound secret about the dangers of trying to hasten God's purpose with our own hands. Rebekah received a divine promise about her children, a revelation that was to guide her life and that of her descendants. But in a moment of desperation and ambition, she decided to take control, using human methods to fulfill what she believed to be God's will. The deception that cost a family and divided a nation is an eternal reminder of the consequences of our decisions made in the shadows of the tent. To fully understand Rebekah's downfall and legacy, we must first delve into the divine calling that guided her life and the marriage that shaped her destiny. Let's explore the promise that guided her steps, revealing how a woman of faith became a tragic character whose choices echoed through the generations. Rebekah, a woman of virtue and tireless work, was the niece of Abraham, the great patriarch. Her story begins in Genesis 24, where she is introduced as a young woman of remarkable kindness. On an ordinary day at the water well, Rebekah demonstrates her generosity by offering water not only to Abraham's servant, Eliezer, but also to his camels. This act of charity and kindness was the sign Eliezer was looking for, confirming that Rebekah was the woman chosen by God to become Isaac's wife. Without hesitation, Rebekah accepts the marriage proposal, showing courage in leaving her family to join Isaac, the promised man. Their union is blessed, and Rebekah finds comfort in her husband's presence after the death of Sarah, Abraham's first wife. Rebekah's life seems to follow a path of blessings and divine providence. However, a shadow begins to form when, after years of marriage, she faces the pain of infertility. It is in this moment of despair that we find the key verse that lays the foundation for the entire narrative. And Isaac prayed to the Lord for his wife, because she was barren, and the Lord heard his prayers, and Rebekah his wife conceived. Genesis 25, verse 21. The miraculous answer to Isaac's prayer contains within itself a disturbing prophecy. This answer, though desired, would bring with it a revelation that would define the central conflict of Rebekah's life. Two children struggling within her womb, each destined to follow opposite paths, without her knowing that her human intervention would bring devastating consequences. But before exploring the mystery behind this prophecy, we need to understand the promise that led Rebekah to this crucial point in her journey, where faith and human intervention would clash in a tragic way. During her pregnancy, Rebekah felt an intense struggle within her, twins fighting in her womb, a feeling so overwhelming that she cried out, "If this is so, why am I alive?" In search of answers, she turned to the Lord and received one of the most decisive prophecies in the Old Testament. "Two nations are in your womb, and two peoples shall be divided from your bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger." Genesis 25, verse 23. This revelation carried immense weight. God had chosen the younger, Jacob, to be the heir to the covenant, reversing the custom of primogeniture. The divine promise became Rebekah's guiding light, but also the seed of family conflict. The certainty that Jacob would be the chosen one could have led Rebekah to believe that she needed to ensure its fulfillment, confusing God's promise with a need for manipulative action. Rebekah's faith in God's word would be put to the test when Isaac, old and blind, prepared to bless the wrong son. The tension within her home would increase, and her choices would take on a dramatic tone. What would be the consequences of these human interventions in a divine plan? Rebekah's story, marked by deep faith but also by hasty intervention, leads us to reflect on the dangers of trying to hasten God's purpose with our own hands. In a desperate act to secure divine blessing, Rebekah devised a bold and dangerous plan. Upon hearing that Isaac had secretly called Esau to bless him, she decided to act. She convinced Jacob, her younger son, to disguise himself as Esau. With precision and care, she prepared a tasty meal and covered Jacob's arms and neck with goat skins, simulating the rough texture of Esau's skin. This was not an impulsive act, but a carefully planned conspiracy to deceive her blind husband and steal the blessing that belonged to Esau by birthright. The plan succeeded, and Jacob received Isaac's blessing. However, this victory came at the cost of family unity. Esau, upon discovering the betrayal, felt a deadly hatred for his brother. His anger was so great that he planned to kill him. Rebekah, seeing the chaos she had unleashed, felt the weight of her actions. The price of deception was the loss of the son she loved so much. Esau, desperate and filled with hatred, had to be sent away to save his life. Rebekah would never see Esau again. The plan she had carefully orchestrated to secure Jacob's blessing resulted in a family tragedy, showing that sometimes our attempts to hasten God's purpose only bring pain and suffering. The climax of Rebekah's narrative is marked by a deep and lasting tragedy. To save Jacob from Esau's wrath, she convinced Isaac to send his son to Haran, under the pretext of finding a wife in the family. This act, which was supposed to protect Jacob, irrevocably sealed Rebekah's fate. Jacob's departure left an unbearable void in her heart. The final verse about her is devastating in its simplicity. So Jacob obeyed his father and mother and departed for Haran. Rebekah died without ever seeing again the son for whom she had fought so hard. Her story becomes a solemn warning that attempting to fulfill God's will with carnal methods leads to bitter consequences and division. Although God's grace worked sovereignly through her flawed actions to fulfill his purpose, the family was never the same again. Rebekah becomes a shadow of how faith can be distorted by control and impatience, teaching us to trust not only in God's promise, but also in his timing and his methods. Rebekah's tragedy reminds us that often our attempts to force God's hand lead us down paths of suffering and loss. But where are we today trying to force God's hand with our own deception and control? In what areas of our lives are we so desperate to see the promise fulfilled that we are willing to manipulate situations and people to achieve our goals? It is time to reflect on our actions and understand that true faith involves trust and patience, allowing God to work in his own time and in his own way. Rebekah's life offers us a powerful lesson about the dangers of trying to help God fulfill his promises. How many times have we tried to dress a Jacob in goat skins? How often have we used tricks or little lies to forge situations, believing that in this way we will bring about the blessing we imagine to be God's will? The temptation to control situations and manipulate people to achieve our goals is real and subtle, but its results can be devastating. Rebekah loved Jacob and saw in him a divine promise. However, she confused her personal preference with God's sovereign will, leading her to make decisions that, although well-intentioned, resulted in tragic consequences. Her actions divided a family and caused lasting suffering. Rebekah's story teaches us to rest in God's sovereignty, trusting that he is perfectly capable of fulfilling his promises without the need for our deception or scheming. God has a perfect plan and a right time for everything. Our faith must be based on the confidence that he knows what he is doing, even when we do not understand or see immediate results. But in the midst of this reflection, a crucial question arises. How can we apply this lesson to our lives? How can we ensure that we are fully trusting in the Lord's methods and timing, avoiding the temptation to take control? Let's explore these questions in the closing. where we will combine this lesson with a call for the community to trust entirely in God's will, resting in the certainty that He fulfills His promises in a perfect and sovereign way. Rebekah's story is a solemn warning, a powerful reminder that manipulation and control disguised as spiritual zeal can lead us down paths of suffering and division. It teaches us that we must seek God's blessing with clean hands, trusting that His will be fulfilled in His way and in His time. We don't need our schemes. We need faith and patience. Reflecting on Rebekah's life invites us to walk a path of integrity and complete trust in divine providence. And you, were you tempted to force God's hand? Comment, "I trust," if you choose to depend on God's providence rather than resorting to human control. And if there is a situation in your life where you feel this temptation, share it in the comments and ask for prayer. Together, we can strengthen and support each other. Remember, our God is sovereign and can redeem even our greatest mistakes. He calls us to a path of integrity and patient faith. May you be blessed with wisdom, patience, and clean hands. Trust in the Lord, that He will fulfill His promises in a perfect and sovereign way. May His light guide your steps, and may you find peace and security in His providence.